World War I, known as the Great War, began in 1914. It was a time of great tension in Europe. Many countries were building strong armies and weapons. They wanted to be more powerful than their neighbors. This created fear and mistrust among them. Countries also formed alliances. These were agreements to help each other if there was a war. The most important were the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance. There were also issues in the Balkans. This area in Europe was very unstable. Serbia wanted to unite all Slavic people, which was a problem for Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary was a big empire with many different ethnic groups. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary was assassinated in Sarajevo by a Serbian nationalist. This event was the spark that started the war. After the assassination, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. This set off a chain reaction. Soon, many countries were at war. The alliances meant that if one country went to war, its allies would too. It was like a domino effect. The world was suddenly plunged into one of the most devastating wars it had ever known. The causes of World War I were complex. They included nationalism, militarism, and alliances. These factors combined to create a situation ripe for conflict. Once the war began, it was hard to stop. The world would never be the same again. The main countries involved were known as the Allies and the Central Powers. The Allies included France, Russia, and Great Britain. Later, Italy and the United States joined them. The Central Powers were Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. Each of these countries had their own reasons for joining the war. Germany had a very strong military. They wanted to expand their territory and power. Austria-Hungary wanted to control Serbia and stop them from stirring trouble in the Balkans. The Ottoman Empire was trying to hold on to its land. They saw an opportunity to regain lost territories by siding with Germany. Great Britain was concerned about Germany's growing power. They also wanted to protect their empire. France had a long-standing rivalry with Germany, especially after losing a war in 1871. Russia wanted to protect Slavic people in the Balkans and also expand its influence. The United States joined later in 1917 after German submarines attacked American ships. Each country brought its own strengths and weaknesses to the table. The war quickly spread beyond Europe. It became a global conflict. Countries from all over the world were dragged into the fighting. Colonies in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific were also involved. This was truly a world war. World War I saw many important battles and events. It began with the invasion of Belgium by Germany in August 1914. This violated Belgium's neutrality and brought Britain into the war. The early battles were bloody and fierce. The Battle of the Marne was one of the first major confrontations. It stopped the German advance into France. The war was fought mainly in trenches. Soldiers lived and fought in these long, narrow ditches. Life in the trenches was difficult. There was mud, rats, and the constant threat of enemy attack. The Western Front, which stretched from the North Sea to Switzerland, saw some of the war's worst fighting. The Battle of Verdun and the Battle of the Somme were among the longest and deadliest battles. The Eastern Front was also a major battlefield. Here, Germany and Austria-Hungary fought against Russia. The war in the East was more mobile than in the West. There were large movements of troops and sweeping attacks. In 1917, Russia withdrew from the war due to internal revolution. This allowed Germany to focus more on the West. Naval battles and air warfare were new elements introduced in this war. The Battle of Jutland was the largest naval battle. Airplanes were used for the first time to spy and drop bombs. The use of tanks and chemical weapons also changed warfare forever. These innovations made the war even more deadly. Section 4. Effects on soldiers and civilians. World War I had a profound effect on soldiers. Many young men went to fight thinking it would be an adventure. They soon learned the harsh reality of war. The conditions in the trenches were terrible. Soldiers faced constant shelling, disease, and little food. They also dealt with the psychological impact, known as shell shock. This was an early term for what we now call PTSD. Many soldiers were injured or killed. Those who survived often returned home changed. They had seen horrors that stayed with them for the rest of their lives. Families were affected too. They lost fathers, sons, and brothers. Women had to work in factories and take on roles traditionally held by men. This changed the social fabric of many countries. Civilians also suffered greatly. The war caused shortages of food and basic supplies. In many countries there was rationing. People had to make do with less. Bombings and battles destroyed homes and towns. Refugees fled from the fighting, creating humanitarian crises. The war also brought about technological and medical advances. New treatments for injuries and diseases were developed. These advances saved lives but also highlighted the terrible cost of war. The human toll was immense, affecting not just the soldiers on the front lines, but also the families left behind. Section 5. Global changes due to the war. World War I changed the world in many ways. It marked the end of monarchies in Germany, Austria-Hungary, Russia, and the Ottoman Empire. New countries were created in Europe and the Middle East. The Austro-Hungarian and Ottoman empires were broken up. This led to new borders and tensions. The League of Nations was formed after the war. Its goal was to prevent future wars. It was a precursor to the United Nations. Although it was not very effective, it laid the groundwork for international cooperation. The war also spurred economic changes. Countries had to rebuild and recover from the devastation. The Treaty of Versailles officially ended the war in 1919. It imposed harsh penalties on Germany. This caused resentment and economic hardship. Some historians believe this set the stage for World War II. The war also changed ideas about war and peace. People realized how destructive and futile war could be. Social changes were also profound. Women had more opportunities and independence due to their wartime roles. This helped pave the way for future rights movements. The war also prompted advances in technology and industry, setting the stage for the modern world. Section 6. Importance of remembering World War I. Remembering World War I is important for many reasons. It teaches us about the costs of war. Millions of people died and many more were injured. The war left deep scars on countries and individuals. It shows us how quickly tensions can escalate into global conflict. By studying this war, we learn about the dangers of nationalism and militarism. We see the importance of diplomacy and communication. It reminds us that alliances can both protect and entangle nations. Learning about the past helps prevent future mistakes. Commemorating the war also honors those who fought and died. It acknowledges their sacrifices and the impact on their families. Many countries hold ceremonies and build monuments. These serve as reminders of history. Finally, remembering World War I helps us understand our world today. Many current conflicts can trace their roots back to this time. It shaped the 20th century and beyond. By remembering, we keep the lessons of history alive for future generations.